I'm here outside the tomb of President Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was our 16th president to serve in the Union, and he's known for his courage and his expertise during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln is also known for many writings, such as, but not limited to, what we're focusing on today, the Emancipation Proclamation and his House Divided speech. The House Divided speech was also given here in Springfield, Illinois, where Lincoln practiced law and lived most of his life. It is now buried here. The Emancipation Proclamation is one of Lincoln's most transformative and powerful writings. The executive order did not just free the slaves living in Confederate states, but also reshaped the political landscape during America during the Civil War. The executive order claimed that slaves living in Confederate states shall thenceforth and forever be free. But it did not just free these slaves, it was a profound statement on human rights and a strategic wartime measure.
The Emancipation Proclamation is a masterful piece of writing where Abraham Lincoln uses several literary devices to strengthen his message. One of the most striking features in his use of formal, legalistic language that lends authority and gravity to the document. Phrases such as that all persons held as slaves and shall thenceforth and forever be free convey a sense of unalterableness and solemnity, emphasizing the seriousness of the decree. Lincoln uses other literary devices, such as repetition, to reinforce key ideas. The phrase that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authorities, repeats the scope of enforcement, underscoring the federal government's full commitment to the proclamation. The repetition beats like a drum, driving home the power behind Lincoln's words. The reason the repetition is so important is because it truly conveys how important the proclamation was and how much it was going to be enforced for these sovereign states from now and for the rest of American history. Another literary device is the use of parallelism, seen in the structure of his sentences that list the conditions and declarations. This balanced construction creates a rhythm that makes the proclamation easy to follow and more memorable. For example, the listing of states and territories where the proclamation applies is methodical and precise, reflecting the careful legal framework that Lincoln was establishing. The reason that the proclamation had to be so legal is because it still was a government document, despite also being a wartime measure. Lincoln emphasizes how this is not just for the Civil War, but for the rest of American history, and how legal and formal the use of human rights has to be. Finally, Lincoln's tone is both resolute and measured, avoiding emotional appeals, but instead relying on the weight and moral duty of the law. This restraint style helps enhance the document's credibility and helps it stand out as a formal declaration rather than a mere political statement. When Lincoln is writing so formal and so directly, it helps convey his message of this being a legal part of the United States from now and forevermore, instead of his personal idea of what the United States should look at.
In essence, the Emancipation Proclamation uses several literary devices, such as a direct tone, parallel structure, repetition, and an authoritative message to get the message of freedom woven together across. Abraham Lincoln was born February 12, 1809, to parents Nancy and Thomas Lincoln, in a shack in Kentucky. Kentucky was a slave state at the time, and seeing these experiences firsthand helped shape Lincoln becoming an abolitionist. Later, when Lincoln turned 21, him and his family moved to Illinois, where he would settle down and find his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, overall having 4 children. Later, in 1836, Lincoln became an Illinois state representative, and he gave many speeches here at the Illinois State Capitol building, the most famous which being the House Divided speech, which he gave during the debate with State Senator Stephen A. Douglas. The House Divided speech is a great example of Lincoln using metaphors and other literary devices to his advantage during political speeches. Right from the opening line, the House divided against itself cannot stand, uses a metaphor to explain the instability and sense of impending doom surrounding the nation at the time being so divided. Lincoln is able to use these literary devices in political speeches to sound aggressive and persuasive, eventually making sure that everyone understands what he means when he is talking about the instability and the state of the union.
Lincoln uses antithesis, contrasting between half-slave and half-free, to highlight the stark division within the country. This polarized image sharpens the conflict, making the stakes clear and emphasizing that the nation cannot permanently endure being split between the opposing systems of slavery and freedom. Lincoln is able to paint a very clear message of the difference between the North and the South during this time in American history, and is able to clearly explain how the central nation itself will not be able to exist with these two opposite systems. Repetition is another key device here. Lincoln repeats the idea of division and unity throughout his speech, reinforcing his central thesis that the country must become all one thing or the other. This repetition acts like a drumbeat, embedding the core message in the listener's mind. The speech's tone is solemn and calm, which adds a sense of gravity and inevitability to his argument. Lincoln's careful choice of words and rhythm help create a cadence that sounds almost like a warning, urging his viewers to recognize the seriousness of the moment. The reason the repetition and the speech's calm tone is so important, it shows how he's not trying to scare the reader, but is more informing the reader on what is happening and what will happen if the country keeps continuing down the path it's going down. Lincoln is able to stay clear of this sounding like an opinion and more sounding like a fact. The fact of the matter is that a nation cannot stand while being split, and a united house will fall when it's no longer united.
In sum, the House Divided speech uses many literary devices, such as repetition, metaphors, antithesis, and a solemn tone to craft a compelling argument about the state of the nation and how a house divided against itself cannot stand, and how the U.S. at the time would not be able to stand so divided between slave and free states.
When talking about Abraham Lincoln's writing, it is imperative that we talk about the impact that he has, not only on his time, but the impact that he has still today. Abraham Lincoln's writing, especially the Emancipation Proclamation and the House Divided speech, have profound impacts both in his time and continue to resonate today with several audiences. The House Divided speech, delivered in 1858, boldly declared that a nation could not endure permanently half slave and half free. This statement crystallized the moral and political crisis tearing the United States apart during the Civil War. This speech brought the division into perspective for a lot of people, and is one of many speeches that allowed Abraham Lincoln to win the presidency during 1860. This speech made so many people understand how high the stakes were for America during the time, and how if they continued to lead down this path, it would lead to civil war. It confronted the injustice of slavery and pushed a conversation towards equality and unity. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued in 1863, was a landmark executive order that declared freedom for slaves in Confederate states. While it did not immediately free all enslaved people, it fundamentally shifted towards purpose, towards abolition, and redefined the meaning of freedom and human rights. Globally, it inspired abolitionist movements and underscored the power of leadership in advancing civil rights. Today, these writings symbolize the ongoing struggle for justice and equality, reminding that these words, backed by action, can change the course of history. The Emancipation Proclamation truly changed the Civil War's trajectory because it made the war about the injustice of slavery and scared any foreign nation from coming to the South's aid and keeping the institution of slavery alive simply for the selfish reasons of agriculture.
As we bring our documentary to a close, it is important to understand how Lincoln's rhetoric changed America and what about it made it so special. Lincoln's use of simplicity and to not over-exaggerate his claims brought them so much power. As we see the quote behind me, he now belongs to the ages. represents how Lincoln was so open to his constituents and how he truly was for America.
As we start to draw this documentary to a close, it is essential to reflect on the distinctive style that defines Abraham Lincoln's rhetoric. Lincoln's writing is marked by its clarity, precision, and his profound stance of moral conviction. His style avoids unnecessary complexity, instead favoring straightforward language that resonates deeply with a broad audience. This accessibility was crucial in a nation divided, allowing his message to both unify and inspire. In both the Emancipation Proclamation and the House Divided speech, Lincoln masterfully employed several literary devices, such as parallelism, repetition, and metaphors, to emphasize his points. Yet, what stands out the most about his ability to blend these rhetoric tools with a tone of humility and earnestness, which made his appeals not just persuasive, but deeply human. His writing reflects a balance between legal rigor and poetic grace, which helped frame the Civil War not only as a political conflict, but also a moral crusade. Ultimately, Lincoln's style is a testament to his belief in the power of the words to shape history. His speeches and proclamations are not just historical documents, they are enduring lessons in how language, when wielded with integrity and purpose, can lead a nation through its darkest hours towards more than just a united future, but also a country which can withstand the test of time. This documentary has explored just a glimpse of his legacy, but Lincoln's voice still echoes throughout America to this day, helping to influence and inspire future generations. Really quick, I want to say thank you, of course, for watching, and thank you for your consideration on my grade. I actually worked really hard on this, and I'm kind of proud of how it came out. There's still, maybe if I had like a recording studio or something, the audio would sound nicer. But I really worked very hard on this, and I think it turned out pretty all right. Going to Springfield is actually kind of awesome. Lincoln's Memorial is actually kind of really neat. So, thank you for watching.